Hello everyone, welcome to another session with me, Varun at Odin School. And in this session, we would be understanding the next part of our course, that is Data Science with Python Advanced module. And in this, we would be looking at the first part of web scraping. Well, guys, this topic being a bit elaborate, I have kind of split this into two. We have thought that it would be better to split this session into two rather than just pull it off in one session. And we all by now, I hope we have an understanding as to why do we have to learn data science with Python. Just to remind you all, data science is like the hot cake right now. And every person who is learning data science and who is advancing his skill set using the concepts or languages that we have involved in data science, there is a substantial growth in career path, at least as of now. And that is the reason why data science becomes very important. And talking about Python, we all know that majority of data science, at least till now, was fueled by Python. It could be with regards to deep learning, or it could be with regards to things like NLP and all. We have huge usage of data science with Python, and that is the reason why it becomes very important for us, at least, to start working on such languages or on such modules. Now, to give you an introduction about Odin, we at Odin School are a technology upskilling platform, and we would help you continuously acquire new skills. Thereby, guys, you could stay skilled and stay ahead. And my name is Varun, and I have an overall experience of around 7 years. And over this tenure, I've been working as a developer and a trainer. And thanks to the organizations that I worked with, I've been able to gain knowledge or insights into languages like HTML, CSS, JavaScript, which are all front-end languages, and then other languages like R and Python, and also into concepts like machine learning, deep learning, mobile application development, etc. So now, going forward, the agenda of this session would be to understand how do we extract a data from website and how do we inspect a website. Like what are the steps involved when you would want to inspect a website, and how do we understand the facets of another website. Now, let us assume I open a window from Wikipedia or Facebook or any public domain site. Now, in this or in these kinds of websites, you can copy information or you can scrape information, but then you would need to have a basic understanding of how these websites are developed, like what are the basic elements that they have in these websites. And that is exactly what we would be understanding in today's session, right? So now let us go forward and understand what is web scraping, or how do we extract data from a website, or how does this work. Well, first things first, to understand this, web scraping is an automated method, guys. It is not something that we do manually each and every time. Yes, things have to be done manually for the first time, but then once you do it, once you have understood, or once the sync is successful, then there's nothing else that you'll have to do. You just have to keep understanding how your data is coming, or probably you'll just have to keep making basic changes if there is any change with regards to the data in the backend too. Otherwise, there shouldn't be a problem, or there shouldn't be manual intervention each and every time you're planning to extract information from the website. And when you want to do this, or when you want to work on such things, there are many ways to scrape websites. So we were talking about what is an API. API is an application programming interface, and this uses Python, all right, or it could be SAP, or it could be, anything. So I want to come up with a small logic using Python, and this logic could be something like a recommendation engine, right? Or it could be something like a suggestion box. Okay, so I'm coming up with a small logic that is built on Python, but the programming interface would be SAP, or the backend would be SAP or Oracle. Now, each of these languages, because they have a different origin and they have different languages that they are evolved from, they would require something called as an API. So, a API would have, in short, the features or the packages required by that application to be understood. For example, now if I want this Python and SAP to be, or now let us call, now let us assume that, okay, let us just change the case study. Here I have Python and Oracle, both of these combining to form an application named XYZ. Right now, this XYZ is to be launched on Android platform, which we all use, and Apple Store as well. Right now, we want this XYZ application to go into both of these platforms. Right now, in order to do this, or in order to achieve this process, we need to ensure that this gap between them is being built, and this gap is built using APIs. So we would have different set of APIs for Android and different set of APIs for Apple Store, because of which what we want would be understood. What we want, as in the language or the libraries, would be understood as per the mobile application that you're using. Right, guys? So it's a very simple and a straightforward thing to understand. So APIs are basically required for us whenever we might require a change or a translation or a greater insight into the application. Now, going forward, how does web scraping work? Web scraping, as you can see, has a certain number of routine steps that we should know. Firstly, you would want to find out the URL that you want to scrape information from. Then you would inspect that page. Now, these are the sectors which we would be working on in today's session. I would be showing a page that we would be extracting, and then we would be inspecting the page, after which we would be finding the data that we want to extract. These are the three steps that we would be doing in this very session right now. All right, and now talking a bit more about web scraping, a few more important things that are to be exchanged between us. Web scraping is not different from web data extraction, or it is also called as information retrieval, right? So yeah, these are some very important, or data extraction. Data mining also partly falls into this, right? So guys, there are a lot of names that you have associated with this, so please do not get confused. More or less, they all do the same thing. Now, when we talk about the basics of web scraping, here it works in two parts. The first one is a web crawler and a web scraper. Now, if the web crawler is, I mean, talking in very dumb man language or a layman's language, if a web scroller is a horse, or if a web crawler is a horse, then web scraper is a chariot. Now this crawler leads the scraper as if by hand through internet, where it extracts the data requested. Now here there are a lot of terminologies that we would want to learn. So the first and the most important terminology is the web crawler. So let us just understand the list of terminologies that we have associated, guys. Right, so the first one is web crawler. The second one is the scraper. All right, and then we would be going into the web scraping process. Now talking about the crawler, Okay, now this is an artificial intelligence that browses the internet to index and search for content. Okay, now for example, web crawler, it just keeps scrolling through the internet. Now let us say I work for a BPO and I'm the manager here. I would want to see all those people who are talking for more than 35 minutes. So this web crawler as an application would keep crawling through all the apps and it would identify all the places where the call is going for more than 35 minutes. Then we have the web scraper that comes into picture, or the web scraper. Now this is a tool that is designed to extract data from the web page, right guys? Now what this does is, depending on the complexity, web crawler, if it has identified, web scraper would quickly access these and it would extract the information for me, and it would get this information to me at an understandable language, or probably in an understandable way. Now, there are many ways. Again, this information can be extracted into an Excel sheet, it can be extracted into an MS Word, it can be extracted wherever you want. Right, guys? So, these are the different ways that you work, or different methods, or the different procedures that are involved behind scraping of one simple document. Now, what are the steps associated, or some basic steps associated? Firstly, there would be some scraping engineers who would want to specifically target where to extract from data. And why is web scraping used, guys? I mean, what would you do scraping that data, or how would this data be useful to you? There are many applications of web scraping. For example, you could use this to check the competition in the market. Okay, you could use this to see how are other people performing with regards to, or with respect to you. Okay, so there are a lot of things that you could work on: analysis, or probably price comparison, or probably social media reaction prediction. Now, what do we mean by social media reaction prediction? Let us assume that Trump or Obama made a speech, and this speech has a lot of words in it, correct? Now, I would want to understand, based on their words used, which of these would suit them. Is it an irate speech? Is it a happy speech? Is it a inspiring speech? So in order to tag the speech into one of the following, I would require web scraping and things like these. Okay, now there are a lot of programming languages which are available for web scraping, out of which the first one is Selenium. I think we have, right, so here it is. The first one that we have is Selenium. Selenium, it is a web testing library, and it is used to automate the browser activities. And this library, it uses WebDrivers for Chrome to test, and to let us know if it is all proper or not. Then we have Beautiful Soup. Beautiful Soup, guys, is a Python library in specific, and this is a library for pulling out or parsing data from HTML and XML files. It creates data parse trees that is helpful to extract data easily. And then we have Pandas. Pandas is also for data extraction, but for databases. I don't think Pandas can directly access a website or something like that. Well, the most important thing here is not just about the libraries that Python has, but also Python is one of the most easiest and the powerful languages that you could use to extract a text, or that you could use to check information from a website. Now, even this beautiful language does not walk away without complications. There are a lot of problems associated when you might want to work on websites, or when you might want to work on extraction of information from any browser. And what is that problem? guys, that would be your legal repercussions. There would be legal issues. This is also called as data theft if you're not following the proper way. All right, and there are websites which allow scraping and there are websites which don't allow scraping. Now if you have by chance landed into that website which does not allow scraping, then guys, there is definitely some trouble that you might have to face. But then how do we know which of these pages letters and which of these pages don't letters? In order to check whether a website supports web scraping or not, you should append whatever is the website. Now let us say the name of my website is xyz.com. You should always append slash robotxt to your website or at the end of the URL of your website to wherever you're opening. And it will tell you about the details of the website, including about the information of scraping. And in such case, you have to check on the special site dedicated to web scraping if you can actually use this information or not. Always, guys, please ensure that you do not open any site which is copyright protected or which has fair use policy. That is something you would not want to touch and end up in trouble. Okay. Now that we have understood, how to work on web scraping and what is web scraping and what are the steps associated with web scraping, let us now just understand quickly how do we work on a project. Now when we work on a project, there are different steps or there are different keywords which are associated. The first one would be you would have to install or you would have to use requests. Requests can be used so you can add content like header or form data or files or parameters via simple Python libraries. It also allows you to access response data of Python, guys, in the same way. Okay, so the first one that we now know is requests, right? Then after requests, the second one which we would be using, or no, when I say second one, the second library is what I mean. The second library I would be using is Beautiful Soup. Soup. Why do we need Beautiful Soup, guys? Beautiful Soup is to ensure that we have information which is being parsed from HTML and XML and other markup languages. Then the third one that you might want to use is SMTP lib or SMTP library. This can be used to send email to any internet machine with SMTP or ESMTP listener daemon. No, this is not a mandate. This can be taken easy. Once we import all these libraries, we would now give the URL and the header, like if it is needed, uh, after which you would start accessing the information from the website. Now, this is the part which we would be talking of, right? But before that, let us just understand what are some uses of web scraping. Right, let me just delete everything that's not necessary. Right, so now we would be talking about the uses or applications or case studies, the way you want to call it, guys. We would be looking at these now. This can be used when you want to check the competitor index, or this can be used for uh, product trend monitoring. It can be used for investment decisions. So in short, what I'm trying to tell you is web scraping is extraction of data, and guys, this data that you have extracted can be used anywhere. I mean, the examples which I'm trying to give are of minimal importance if you have understood where and how we can use web scraping for. All right. So yeah, now what we'll do is without wasting time, let us quickly move on to the hands-on part of it. Now that we have understood how web scraping works, what are the steps associated, and what are the libraries associated, let us not waste time and let us just move on to the hands-on part of it. Okay, so now with regards to this, I would like to navigate us to the Anaconda Navigator. Let me just clear the screen, and here we are. So guys, the website that I have selected is a Wikipedia website, and this is HTTPS. Okay, let me just copy the website for better, and I'm opening this. Perfect. And this is the website that I have in front of me right now. And what do we have here, or rather, what are the different elements that you can see on the page? Let me just scroll. Right, so here it all begins. Firstly, I have list of Asian countries by area, which is the heading or header. Then I have a table here, a table with one, two, three, four, a table with four columns. Then here I have a small paragraph or a line, I don't know, lines or a paragraph. And then what do we have next? We have some references and we have some C also. Right, so guys, now I would want to give you something. Now I am the manager. Let us assume a small case study wherein I am the manager, or probably I am your immediate official, and I tell you that I would want you to give me a list of all the countries that are available in this table. And guys, mind you, I don't need anything else, just the names of countries, or probably, yeah, the countries without the hyperlink. Now, in this case, it's very easy for us to work on this information, but there are certain aspects which we would have to understand, or there are certain dimensions of HTML which we'll have to understand before we go any further. So now let me just take you back. We don't have to go anywhere. This is where it is. So here I have a list of my countries, right? And I have taken this website, and this website is passed into WikiLink, which is a variable. Now I'm using requests. Now I hope we all know why we use request. It was discussed just a while back. Guys, request is used when you would want to get the headers, or when you would want to get the information from the internet. Okay, also when you might want to send something back, you should have something called as requests. So here I'm using requests, and I'm telling my system that I want it to get the textual information from WikiLink. Right? I hope it's all very easily being understood. Guys, if not, you all know what to do. You all know how to get your problems resolved, how to get your queries resolved. Please follow the steps. Right. So here, what we are doing is, I am now and telling my system that I want it to pass the information in WikiLink into link after it's getting all the requests and textual information as well. So now here we see that we have different HTML tags. Now these are called as tags, guys. Now what is a tag? For all those of you who are trying to understand HTML for the first time, this is a tag. Now a tag can have anything, head or probably script. Now if this is called an open tag, then this is called a close tag, wherein we are closing the tag with the help of this slash. So now working on because working on web scraping would require at least some insights into HTML, let us also take a look at the basics of HTML right away.
So now that we have understood how to work on web scraping, what is web scraping, the different facets associated with web scraping, like now we know how web scraping is important and also the different parts or the different steps or the different libraries associated. Let us now go ahead and understand how HTML is also a very important part of web scraping. And in this pursuit, let us also learn a bit about HTML. And just to let you know, guys, we will be looking at only the most basic foundational level concepts of HTML, because the goal here is not to be working or not to gain expertise on HTML. It is just to be able to understand some tags and some elements or probably some references so that we could, use them for our requirement. Now, when you look at the page, you are able to understand that this is an official website. Now, MDN Web Docs is actually recognized official learning partner of HTML language. Notwithstanding HTML, there are a lot of other languages that you could probably come here and take a look at. You have JavaScript, you have web forms, you have different tools like React, Ember, Git and GitHub. There are different tools. So yeah, HTML is one of them that we could learn or that we could unleash from this website. Now, notwithstanding this website, which is MDN Web Docs, the next website I would want to talk about is JS Fiddle. Now, JS Fiddle is a website wherein it behaves as a notebook. In this website, guys, you could try coding your HTML, JavaScript, and CSS all together. And I hope we all know that all these three languages together make front-end languages. And it was only with the use of these three languages that we have come up with so many variants of mobile applications or so many variants of front-end applications, right, guys? So the most important takeaway here that I want us to understand, or that I would request you to understand, is if HTML is for us to see what is on the screen or to see how things are visible, right? Probably a button or probably a list or probably an image that you see. If all that is credits to HTML, then we have JavaScript, which gives life to any image. For example, when I click on a button, now here, this is a button, or this is a list, different things, or this is a button. Now, when I click on this, we see that there is some action happening. Now, if this were a button, and if when I click on this, if there is no action happening, that is when we can conclude, or that is when we would know that this button is just a button to view and it has no functionality. Now, the functionality part, that is whenever I click on this run, it is actually running. Now, what would happen if I click on run and you see that the window is getting closed? It means that there is something wrong with the button, right? And this also further means that we have not given what is required to the functionality. Like probably within the run functionality, I have entered close, which is my fault. Now, guys, this is the difference between HTML and JavaScript. JavaScript basically takes care of the functionality, that is save, command, run, execute, or probably close, minimize. When you click on a button and when we see the work happening, that work is happening because of JavaScript. JavaScript is a validation, moreover. JavaScript takes care of the action. JavaScript takes care of events in very technical parlance. But when we shift probably our heads towards HTML, we would realize that HTML is moreover a markup language for creation of web pages, or probably for creation of basic simple applications. Now, when we talk about CSS, that is Cascade Style Sheet. Cascade, I think this word itself here speaks a lot. Now, what is getting cascaded and what do we mean by Cascade Style Sheet? Now, that is a very important question. Now, Cascade Style Sheet is something to do with cosmetization. It works only with the cosmetic part. For example, here you see that I have Fiddle Meta written in bold here. And then we see that update is in a green color box, while I have this extra in yellow box. And when I hover on this, we see that the color is changing by a bit. Now, these are features which CSS can work on, or these are the features that CSS handles, right, guys? So this is the difference between CSS and JavaScript and HTML, right, guys? Again, just to sum it up, HTML is a front end, just a view related language. Then we have CSS, which is moreover to do with cosmetization, or which is moreover to do with beautification of HTML. And then the next we have is JavaScript, wherein it takes care of validation. It acts moreover as a scripting language. So now let us come on to this website and understand a bit about HTML. Now here, when you take a look at it, you have some prerequisites. Well, I wouldn't call them very important. Like you should have computer literacy and all. Well, I think that is for us to ignore. Now here, as you can see, or as you can read, HTML is not a programming language, guys. That is the reason why I was trying to stress on this word right from the beginning, that it is a markup language. Hypertext markup language. Now, it tells the web browser how to structure the web pages. All right, it can be as complicated or as simple as the web developer wants it to be. Now, let us just copy this from here and we'll see on this parlance what would JS Fiddle do for us. So now I'm going on to JS Fiddle. This is my HTML, copying things here, and I click on enter. Oops, I click on run. You see, we have the output here. That is, my cat is very grumpy. And this P element that you're seeing, this is a paragraph element. Now, even before we talk about elements and what are the different kind of elements, the first and the foremost important thing for us to understand is the anatomy of HTML, or probably label the parts of one HTML element. Here, P is the opening tag, and we see that opening tag is just written within the brackets. But when we talk about the closing tag, it is there is inclusion of a slash as well. Now, this is the only difference between a closing tag and an opening tag. Otherwise, this becomes the content, or this becomes the one that would be thrown open to the world, or this is the one that would come in the output, whatever, again, the way you want to call it. And then the whole line, or the whole command, or the whole sentence together is called as one element. Right, guys, so this is how we work with elements, or this is how we work with HTML, or this is how we come up with different commands in HTML. Now, again, when we talk about it, there is one important thing that we should know. There are dependent tags and independent tags. Now, the difference between them is, when you're working on dependent tags, then you would see that if there is one tag missing, then the other tag would make no sense. But there are also independent tags which can be used, for example, head, right? This tag needs no closure. HTML right? We see doc type HTML. All these act as or stand as independent tags. They need no other tags, or they don't depend on anything else. All right, guys. So these are the two kinds of tags that we have just to begin with, as a warm up to understand HTML. Now, as we keep going further, there are some basic tags which we should know about, and probably a bit about understanding the coding paradigm of HTML, because when you open a web page that you might want to scrape, then guys, not every page or not every Windows or not every browser shows that information in the same way. It also depends very largely on the version that you're using, or probably the the way it is coded. There are a lot of things that come into picture when we talk about things like these. So that is the reason. Let us now understand a bit about HTML. So as you can see here, we can change things. So this is my text and this is the code. Now, if you want to change this, this is your text, and you see you have the change above. If you make a mistake, you can click on the reset, and this again goes back to this is my text. And when you click on show the solution, this is how it is coded. Right? And where do we talk? Where do we see about this tag? That's EM. Here you see. You can create your own first HTML element, and you can edit the line below with the tags EM. EM is for element. Okay. Oh, you have it here. To open the element, put the opening tag EM. Okay, so that is also very explicitly written here. And now that we are putting the opening tag EM, we can see how we have the element that is popping up, right, guys? But in real-time parlance, you would not be using just an EM. You would be giving the name. What do you want? Do you want a list, or do you want a button, or do you want an image? Because that is how elements are identified, right? Otherwise, if I have 100 elements, then how would your system recognize which element is what? Like, you can't just write element 100 times and give each element another name again and then another ID again. That would become too cumbersome. That is the reason why it is imperative for us to know some important tags. For example, list, p, a, table. We have things like head, footer, tail. All these basic commands become important because when you want to scrape, as I said, these are the elements that you would these are the elements that you would be looking at almost at every website. So guys, that is the important part here. So now let us just take a look at how HTML kind of works. So now that we've understood getting started, let's go to the next. That is what is head and what is metadata. We would just be covering some important things here. So this is the head. Head is like the foremost. Okay, let me just open one random website from Google, that is list of Asian countries, and we'll open Wikipedia. So now that Wikipedia has come up, let me do F12, which is developer tools. And I hope you are now able to see that it starts with the HTML tag and then moves on to head, and then it moves on to body, and then the body is closed again, and then so is HTML. And when I hover, you see when I click on body, it would show us where and how or which element that we are referring to. That is the reason why we use element inspector. Now, if we use a common tag which is element each and everywhere, then it would become very difficult even for your system to understand or to show the requisite output. Right, guys? So that is the reason we have to learn or probably understand some basic tags that are very commonly used in HTML, because they would become important for us while exploration. Right, guys? So I hope this part here is understood as to why we have to use tags and how tags become important. Now, if you might want to check about the JavaScript part of an application, that is when we would be going to console. And within console, sorry, that's when you can go to sources. And within sources here, you would see the list of attached JavaScript files, just in case if any. And then we have network. This is basically a waterfall. It gives us an idea about how much of time each element is taking to load onto the screen. Right, guys, see here we have a waterfall. You can just check this element has taken 1.136 macroseconds. So this is how it works. Okay. So head, basically what it does, head is not a part that is not displayed on the web browser. When the page is loaded, it contains information such as the title or links to CSS. So head basically works as a central part of your file or your project, which is trying to reconnect you to the other parts. As I said, if you have 2 to 3 files, wherein one is CSS file, one is JavaScript file, one is probably another file with a lot of images or data set. Now, when you have things like these, or when you want to work on stuff like this, is when you would have to take care of things, or you would have to connect them onto one page. Like you might have 4 to 5 CSS files, you might have 2 to 3 JavaScript files, you might have a couple of views, because not every application has only one window, right? It has multiple windows. So how do you think we would manage all these? All these are managed at one place, and they are connected using the head page, or sorry, using the head tag which within your first or the initial page of your HTML. Right, guys? So this is what it is. Now we would be going on to the next part, that is what is HTML head. Now let me just copy this code also, so that we can use JSFiddle. Let us now execute this, and when you execute this, you see this is my page. We have it here. Right, guys? Now you can also delete this because this is the title. And where does title go? Title should actually have come here. But then because there's already a website, that is not what we're supposed to do. So now when I run this again, you still see that I have an output that this is my page. And how do we have the hierarchy? If you can see, it all starts with doc type HTML, then it moves on to the next tag, which is HTML, after which we have the head, then the meta tag, then the head again. Now this head is a closure for the first. Then we have the body tags, after which my HTML is closed. But then, guys, please notice that my doc type HTML, with which it is beginning, that does not have an opening or a closure. I mean, it has an opening, but then there is no closure for it. Now, this is one example of an independent tag. Right, guys? Independent tags also exist, and this is just one such example of how, where, and why we use independent tags. Right, guys? So I hope you have understood how we use JS and how we use MDN as a website, right? But just to let you know once again, what we saw on MDN is just 1% of it. It's probably not even 1% of it. MDN gives you an end-to-end understanding about each and every language that you have here. For example, HTML, JavaScript, and CSS. You could learn great volumes of, you could have great deal of information that you could extract from this website. So each and every one of you who would want to work on web scraping or projects related to HTML or websites, and if you do not have any
background knowledge on HTML, then I would suggest or I would recommend that you people please start checking out such websites, because these websites give you great knowledge and great insights. Also, the information is very genuine in these kind of websites. So yeah, it is highly recommended that you start surfing or exploring websites like these, which would enrich your development experience and also your learning, probably. Right, guys? So, yeah, now let me take you to the next part.
And in your inspect, you can directly just hover through. See, so this is that content text box. It has parser output, it has non-script areas, it has printer footer. So that is how that part of the screen is divided into. Then this part is the closure of whole page, and from here we have the next part of information. So this is the content text. This is where we have, you can see guys, TD is the table data. So I'm on my first now. And where do we have that information? The name is Russia. Okay, let me just hover here. And now let us take a pencil. So the name is Russia, and Russia is enclosed within the table. The table has a class name of Wikitable Sortable jQuery table sorter. I don't know, whatever it is. We don't have to get so worried about the name. Then I am using a table header. This header is getting opened and closed, within which there is table body, within which there is table row. And here we have 1, which is the index. So that is now understandable. Then I have my table data, and within my table data I have my flag icon. Now this is also not a problem. Then I have my text. And how do we have the text, guys? As you can see, they are all hyperlinks. They're not just the name. Just a name is here. You click on it, nothing would happen. But on the right, we see, on the left, that is here, all these places, we see, oops, all these places, we are able to notice that the text mentioned is a hyperlink. Now, in this case, guys, what do you think would be the tag we would be seeing? It would be A followed by href, and that is exactly what we have here as well. I have A followed by href when I'm giving wiki.russia, and this is a link. This is not a name. And then we are giving the title to be Russia. So I have a link which is separate, and I also have a title which I'm adding to it. So yeah, that is the step one. So now that we have understood, okay, let me just delete everything on the screen. Cool. Now guys, now that we've come so far and that we've understood how to work on this, let us just take some more steps to understand what are the different tabs we have here. This is console. Console is used whenever you might want to work on validations, or whenever there is JavaScript, or whenever you might want to work on conditional uh, check. That is when you would want to come to console. The third one we have is sources. This would tell us where the information is coming from. You could use a breakpoint, or you could use multiple breakpoints to check and see where there is a DOM break, or wherever there is an XHR break, or wherever there is a global listener. You could use that from your sources. Then we have network, not very important. This is basically to give you a waterfall of what's happening, and you have your performance. And yeah, I think that's pretty much it. So the most important elements that you should be knowing about, or the most important tabs that you should be knowing about, are elements and console. Now we could also check this in different formats. Now this is a responsive 400 570 screen. You can change this to iPad. So this is how it looks in iPad. You can change this to iPad Pro. This is how it looks in iPad Pro. Now guys, why does all this make a difference? Does it really make a difference? Like, if I were you, my question or the thought that would have come to my brain is, what happens? Like, why are there so many different looks for those so many different phones? Guys, the simple thing is, every phone or every screen or every laptop is designed with different resolutions and a different skill set and for a different purpose. So it is best suited that we don't judge or we don't come to a conclusion about how it should be on the phone. Rather, we would want to ensure or comply to all the ways that it should be visible, right? So here, as we can see, this is for iPad Pro. Now let me just clear everything on the screen. Cool. Now that we have seen all the HTML part of it, let us just understand where is the table lying here. Right. So guys, now let us search for the table. This is table, but not the start. I'm now on the columns of table. Okay, I'm not able to do that. So now that we are on the columns of table, let us just start searching the other way around. This is table header, table header. That is also a table header. This is a table. Perfect. Right? Now, how do we know that this specific part of your whole program is a table? Now, guys, that is a question I would want you to answer. And if you don't know, there's no logic that we're using. It is very simple. We first tried to identify where the table started by hovering on the table. Somehow, when it didn't work well, I thought we should identify where the table is, doing it the other way around. So that is why instead of hovering on the screen, I thought let us start checking out the code. And now that we are within the code and now that we've understood how HTML has built this page, should not be a very big problem for us to understand how this table is built and designed. Right, so now coming back to the topic, this table here, it uses the name Wicketable Sortable jQuery Table Sorter. Now we don't need all these names when we are working or when we would want to instantiate a table. We would just want to use some of these. So now what we would do or what I would do is, let me just take you the code and let us understand what all do we have here. We have the title that is list of Asian countries by area. I hope you are able to make a check of what we see on the top and what we see on the bottom. They are just the same. Then I have my script, okay, after which you see we have the months. Then we have the list of Asian countries by area. So this is how your code keeps developing. Okay. Now what did we do after we have come up to this step? We have again used the library once again, but here the library is a bit different and we would want to pass the data returned from the website. And for this, I'm using BS4, that is Beautiful Soup, wherein soup is equal to Beautiful Soup link with LXML, right? And I'm printing this using soup. Now, what is Beautiful Soup used for? Guys, we have discussed this right at the beginning of the session, but to give you all an overview once again, Beautiful Soup is used to ensure that you have data or that you have properties extracted from the website or from the required place. So I'm using from BS4 import beautiful soup, and soup is equal to beautiful soup, but then how do I want this information to get passed or parsed by? It would be LXML, and then I'm printing my soup. After which we are checking the title. Now guys, we have seen that there are different kinds of very basic tags available, like title, string, A, P, etc. So this is the table that I want to extract or that I would want to see. Now what do we have after this table? We again have elements which are totally not required. I mean, I don't mean they're not required by the system, they're not required by the developer. I mean, I don't need that information right now because the information that I want is all within table. And when I click on table, what all do I have within table? Let us just understand this step by step. So within table, I have a table header, right? So what is, okay, let us just zoom this a bit so that we understand. Cool. So now this is my table, and within my table I have my table header. And what is table header, guys? As you can see, when I select my table header, it is only highlighting the ones wherein we have heading like the rank, country, area, and notes. Okay, and then after my table header, I'm using my table body. And what does my table body do? Guys, table body is the place where I have my whole information focused on, or I have my whole information dumped in. Let us now see. So this is my table footer. We don't want to talk about footer right now, but this is my table body. So table body contains the notes, the area, the names of the countries, and the index as well. And what do we have within table body is more important for us. So within table body, I have table rows. This is second row, third row, fourth row, fifth, sixth, seventh, likewise, right? So these table rows that we are able to see, these table rows give us information about each of the country. Now table rows are pretty lot, and let me scroll below. All right, now that we have seen all the tables, then I have a table footer. I'm still not able to see the table footer. Right, so this is my table footer, that is the line below, and this is the closure of my table, and then I have my heading 2. So heading 2 talks about see also, and guys, now that we see that you have edit, which is a hyperlink, let us just go ahead and see. You see you have span, which is the first, and then this line talks about the edit section, right? So I hope you have understood. Here you can also probably change the text and see how it works. So here I have see also. I might want to change this to seen also, and I hit enter. You can see that this change is reflected here. But guys, this change is all temporary. This change does not get affected, or this change does not uh, stick to the Wikipedia. All right. So that is what we have here in this session. So I hope you have understood how do we inspect a website. What are the different facets of inspecting a website? And when we are inspecting a website, what are all the different tags that are important for us? I hope all of these points are understood by us. And if there's any queries that you have, guys, I'm pretty sure by now you all know what to do and where to, where to hit up your queries with. And please do that, right? So in the session to come, we would be looking at the actual usage of these libraries. That is, we would be checking out beautiful soap, we would be checking out pandas, and we would be checking out requests and all other libraries or all other pieces of code which are required for us to extract an information and get that into a data frame using Python. So yeah, I hope you have understood how to extract data from a website and how to inspect a website. And in the session to come, we already know what we will be discussing. So guys, if you feel that whatever we have discussed is of any use to you and that this knowledge that's been transferred is interesting, then please do not forget to hit the like button because that would encourage us to make more. And also, not forget to hit the subscribe button because when you do that, you would be having access to a plethora of videos to watch from. And these videos are just building day by day. And do not forget to hit the bell icon too because whenever we update a video, you do not want to miss a notification, do you? So thank you very much. Stay tuned. This is me, Varun, your trainer, your mentor, signing off, wishing you all the best for the job role you're about to take up or for the day that you're about to head for. Thank you.